What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Queendom Gems. We are back in action. I am thrilled to essentially forewarn you of a relaunch, right? So I know I had a good cadence going and I took some time and I really missed you guys, but during that time period, God has really just been doing something awesome and transformative inside of me. And that's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say. Now I behold the Lamb who is responsible for the coin, right? And so we're gonna be covering a lot of different topics on this channel. When I very first launched this channel, it was with the intention to literally just talk about entrepreneur development, business development, because in my heart, I know that there's a lot of resources and just general gain that you shouldn't have to pay for. Whether you have the resources or not, but especially for those who don't have access to certain financial resources to be able to pay someone like myself or any of my colleagues who are consultants by trade in order to be developed and be successful, you need somewhere to be able to learn things. And there's plenty of stuff that I'm willing to share for free because it's not strategy, it's knowledge, right? And the word of the Lord, I'm going to always go back to the Bible, is to buy truth and buy wisdom and sell it not. So what people pay me for as a consultant is strategy, right? So the actual truth and wisdom and knowledge that's required for me to be able to create those strategies, that's free game. I'm not responsible for that. That's not even mine. God gave me those things. And it's by his grace that I have the mind and the fortitude to be able to come up with those strategies. So over time, I have said yes to my call to ministry that I first got when I was 16 years old. And, this video is not about my testimony in that way. So you guys are just going to have to stick around for stories as we go and grow together. But I'm 30 years young, proud to say. I have a lot of focus and I'm very, very, very thankful that from March to now, which we're towards the end of May, during this season of my life, it's been a lot of prayer, a lot of fasting. It's been really painful, if I'm going to be transparent. When you go through a sanctification process, which mine began in October of last year, and it was cutting out a lot of sin. So not variety of sins, but repeat sins, like repetition in the same things and me being delivered from those things. And then the true pruning of my heart began, right? And so just all of the different things, pride, arrogance, unforgiveness, a lot of the things that I didn't think I was carrying inside of me, it wasn't until I opened up my heart to God that he helped me see how many things were inside my heart from my youth, from my adolescence, from college years, just things that I had suppressed and told myself that I got over, but I didn't actually deal with it, let it surface up and let it go. So God gave me vision for this next season of my life prior to that. So when I was posting the shorts consistently, I had this vision. I think that one of my YouTube shorts, I talk about transition, right? And it might be obscure, scary, weird, uncomfortable, chaotic, whatever the thing may be, you have to go through it, right? So as I've been going through this transition phase, I can't stay the same because every level of life requires a new version of ourselves, not a completely new person, like new personality and different things like that, but a new version of ourselves, a better version of should be a better version of ourselves, a more refined version of ourselves. And so, throughout this process, it has been just amazing to see the way God has moved, the way he's shown up, the way he's paid my bills after telling me not to work so that I can spend time with him, pursuing him, not telling y'all to do that. So please do not go do that and say Queen told you to quit your job, because I did not do that. I definitely have years and years of hearing the Lord's voice. Just as Stephanie EK says, you got to have some track record, some relationship to be able to discern the Lord's voice before you go making drastic life changes like that. But if you know it's God, I'm not here to stop you, but just be wise, okay? The word tells us to try the spirits. That's all I'm gonna say. So the purpose of this video is, 1, to tell you all those things that I just told you. 2, to let you know what to expect coming up. And then 3, to actually cover the topic today, which is willingness. So the second thing is, what can you expect? So My brand has not changed. I'm just going to be covering more things on this YouTube channel. So there are things about my life that you guys as my YouTube family probably don't know unless you know me personally or follow me on other platforms. But there are things that I do outside of entrepreneur development. Very involved in my church. As I told you earlier, I have said yes to my call to ministry. And so the Lord has lifted the veil from between like my consultant self and my mentorship, leadership, prayer warring self, and married them things together. So the topics that we will be covering here are going to be, of course, the career and entrepreneur development that we've been doing. I'm going to start doing more personal development, which I have kind of touched on that, but I'm going to be a lot more intentional about it. Third, we're going to be covering spiritual development. And then fourth, we're going to be covering emotional, mental healing and deliverance. So when I launch the site that I've been telling y'all for forever, I'm going to launch, which, I mean, you can go to it. I just don't post the link anywhere. So there's the plot twist. But when you go to it, you will be able to choose a track. So there's going to be ebooks for each one of those tracks, coaching, one-on-one coaching for each one of those tracks. There's one community. There's going to be one community for everybody to join. And then also some courses for you to purchase if you are more of a self-taught type of person. But as always, the content on this YouTube channel is ripe for the picking, right? It's yours. It's right there at your fingertips. I'm going to tell you as much as possible as I can in these YouTube videos. But for those of you who do request mentorship, guidance, more one-on-one help, I'm going to start releasing these ebooks more frequently. And again, making myself more available for one-on-one coaching. When I tell y'all, I can't take any credit for that. And so I think that's a perfect place to transition into our topic for the day, which is willingness. All right. So we're going to cover willingness. What does the word willingness even mean? Let's pull up the dictionary. Okay, so we have Merriam-Webster pulled up here, and it defines willingness as inclined or favorably disposed in mind, ready. An example is willing and eager to help. The second definition is prompt to act or respond, lending a willing hand. The third definition is done, born, or accepted by choice or without reluctance, a willing sacrifice. The fourth definition is of or relating to the will or power of choosing. Volitional. Synonyms are voluntary, intentional, deliberate. It says willingness or willing implies a readiness and eagerness to accede to or anticipate the wishes of another. Willing obedience. So why is willingness important for anything? Number one, if you want to have a relationship with God, you're going to have to be willing to do the work. You are going to have to be inclined or favorably disposed in mind, prompt to act, and have the will and power to choose, right? Because we have free will. So we talk about free will, meaning, you know, the birds can't do anything other than birds do what birds do, right? A dog does what a dog does. Water does what water does. The sun does what the sun does. None of these other portions of creation have the option to be able to do something else. We are the only thing in creation that can use itself and actually pervert other things in nature to operate outside of purpose. Now, I'm going to start off with the second half of our ability to pervert. So what that means is I can use water for something water isn't meant for, right? I can use science for something that it wasn't meant for because I have power and dominion, because God gave us dominion over the earth. I have the will to choose to use something that was meant for one particular purpose. I mean, people do all kinds of weird things. People do all kinds of sexually immoral things with food, you know, which I'm not going to give any examples, but let your imagination not go too wild, right? Reel it in. But that's just an example of something like food is made to eat, right? And so people put food other places to do things and cause themselves pleasure in different things, not to be vulgar, but I'm sure your mind, if you're an adult, you know, but I want to keep my channel PG, you know what kind of things that people use stuff for, and that's not what that's for. So just because I have the power to use that fruit or vegetable for a purpose that is not intended for, which is to be consumed to add nourishment and health to my body, doesn't mean that that is what the value of that is for, because that's not what the purpose was intended for. So the same way we have the ability to cause that nature or that perversion of things to be exercised out of our desires or our fleshly desires, we can also, and we do, the same thing with our temple, with this mind, with our spirit, right? And just causing all kinds of chaos in our own lives. Why am I talking about willingness? Willingness is what you have to have anything. To have love, you have to be willing to love and be loved. To have discipline, you have to be willing to sacrifice your desires, to sacrifice pleasures. So I wrote this scripture at the top of my vision board. It's Proverbs 21:17. Whoever loves pleasure will be a poor man. He who loves wine and oil will not be rich. Now, I haven't done my strongest research on that yet, but I can assume, just based off other biblical examples, that it's talking about more than just money. You know, it's not talking about, when the Bible talks about riches, it's not talking about just physical riches. It's talking about being rich in spirit, in the fruits of the spirit. Unless we are willing to sacrifice the desire to please ourselves all the time, we're not going to grow. That's the other thing. You know, we require a growth mindset here. That I didn't do it in the intro, you know, where we're growing our hearts, minds, and the come up. So the ironic thing is, when I came up with that line, and I partnered with the Holy Spirit for that line for my channel, I wasn't talking about really a lot of that stuff. It was just like preparing me for where we at right now. I'm not going to get into that and get sidetracked. But, you know, I like to keep my points very concise and clear. So the moral of the story is, ask yourself, if you're not where you want to be, if you're not accomplishing what you want to accomplish, if you feel like you've not yet made it to where you think you should be, or you find yourself having a hard time accomplishing your goals, or when you do finally accomplish your goals, you're exhausted, you're probably not putting all that effort and energy into the right thing. Because doing the hard work to purge your heart and your mind and your flesh and your mindset and your focus and your discipline and your discernment, to purge all of those things of all the perversions and the wickedness of the world, is not an easy process. It's not a fun process, but it's a necessary process. It's like certain things that are really painful, but it's worth it after, right? For my black girls who get their hair braided, or not black, because everybody be getting their hair braided these days. When you get your hair cornrowed, it's like painful. It's painful. But afterwards, when the pain is gone, you're like, ooh, baby, listen, right? So even me, like, I hate combing my hair. I do. I hate combing my hair. I will do everybody's hair in the neighborhood and in the house first before I comb my own hair. And it's because this right here, this motion right here, especially when we're like right here and having to do this, it's a lot for me. It is a lot for me. And that's why I just keep my hair straight. I keep my hair straight because don't nobody have time to be combing their hair every day. Like, this is cute, but this is only like, today is Tuesday. I just did this on Sunday and it's already frizzy. Like, everything was smooth like this, but it's gonna all be frizzy, you know, in a couple of days. Whereas if I had flat iron my hair, it'll be straight for weeks and I don't have to worry about it. But I'm not willing to do the work. This was easier. It's a flexi rod set. I just wrapped it up, set it in a jar, and I got frustrated because after an hour, my hair wasn't dry. And I was like, I am not willing to stay under the dryer any longer. And I just left them flexi rods in my head until the next day, which is why it's frizzy. Because if I had sat under the dryer until it dried, it probably would have set better. You see, that's just an example of willingness. I'm not a perfect person. So just because I talk to y'all about stuff, I'm always remind you that I am also growing with you, okay? I am not here and you're here. We're all in this. Let me not finish it before Disney shut my channel down. But the point is, as I conclude, because I like to keep my videos short on this channel and palatable, willingness or the ability to be inclined or favorably disposed in mindset. So favorably disposed in mindset, I have a positive mental disposition. I have chosen to think positively about doing this, right? Because I can do something, but if I don't have a willingness to do it, I'm not really doing it with a positive mindset, right? It's like when my mom tells my sister to do the dishes. She might do the dishes, but she's not really willing to do it. Like, she's gonna do it, and it's gonna take her longer, and then it's gonna drag out, and it really could have been faster if she had had positive energy towards it. And I hope she doesn't mind me using that as an example. I'm not here to discourage her. So if you see this, baby girl, Sissy loves you. But I just felt like that was a really great example, because it's like the parent-child thing. Like, we are as little children to the Most High, and He is perfect. So even when, and especially when we don't feel like we have a really good understanding of why we should be doing something, that's where that faith comes in, and knowing that my Father knows better than I do. So I'm going to be willing to do this, even though I don't necessarily understand. Or you may have understanding, you may not have understanding. You may agree, you may not agree. You may be excited, you may not be excited. There's definitely been things that God has had me do these last couple of months that I was not excited to do. And I'm not going to give you an example because those things are personal and they have to do with my personal relationships. But there's been things that I was not excited to do. It wasn't fun to do. I cried about it. I rebelled just a little bit, and thankfully the blood of Jesus covered me and I didn't get smacked by God. But don't play with the Lord like that. Be swift in obedience. Delayed obedience is disobedience, right? Partial obedience is disobedience. And so until I was willing, positive in mindset, to make the necessary sacrifices that I needed to make, like getting up in the morning, right? And I didn't go to the gym today. One step at a time. One step at a time. But the point is, I'm willing. I'm willing, just like I'm willing to make this channel a lot more intimate and personal than what I had intended when I started it, because that's what God has for you guys and for me. So I'm sure I'm going to learn things as I have to speak on certain topics and subject matters. But the point is, I'm willing. And these last 2 months of me being willing and growing my willingness, the more willing I am, the more fruit I see. The more willing I am, the more miracles I see. The more willing I am to spend time with God and have relationships, the more I desire Him, the hungrier I become for His presence, the hungrier and thirstier I become for His glory and His wisdom and His understanding. And the more fruit I see, and the better I get, and the more willing I am. You see this cycle? It's like the more you start to see the positive results of that positive input, the more willing you become. But until you are willing in the initial state, the initial phase, step one, you're not going to be able to see all the beauty after. So that is it for today. I love y'all. Peace, love, and hair grease. Even though I know hair grease in my hair, but that's okay. I see you when I see you.